This one right here goes out to everyone who feels like their voice isn't being heard. I got y'all, for real. Senseless stories told from what society deemed as a senseless poet. Now take the less off of senseless to make sense out of corporate sense as you inhale the incense of my sense. And sense the truth of society's nonsense, since they bullshit ignorance and pass it off as common sense. The mind of a genius, yet weak to his own envious perceptions of collective electives. His mind state slithered in and out, as smooth as contraceptives, for fighting a perspective system that warps minds, leaving them simplified. So their aristocratic dictatorship made them oratorical impervious to the poetic system of the nervous, leaving them sonic rap by the reforming tentacles of Octavius, suppressing his valiant heart of the chivalrous with their carnivorous coalition. As to them, he was as insignificant as a nominal who will eventually succumb to their logic. And androgynous, crisscross through crossroads, manipulated by their collegiate crosses to bear across the world, worshiping their holy cross for the ironic. For the power of their influence could not be obtained, nor was it patrimonial to their matrimonial union, killing hope of fallen mortals, patronizing the word, leaving them predisposed to feed for the secluded crack change in the seas hormonal. The poet knew his future could never be told. His soul refused to be sold to the devils to be molded, as he was scolded for poetic mastery. As the actualization of his principles sparred against corporate America, whose commercial goons started blasting. Commercialism channeled into his soul. As he looked to the sky, he said, I died, but poetry shall remain eternal. Stories told from what society deemed as a senseless poet. Now take the less off of senseless to make sense out of corporate sense as you inhale the incense of my sense. And sense the truth of society's nonsense, since they bullshit ignorance and pass it off as common sense. Fortunes of the untold impeding to my soul, encroaching my scrolls, ascribing them as their own, causing them to play that media role. Assuming me as a mole, they seek out their proverbial trolls, primordially there to magically revive. Turpin's authoritarian time, stabbing my advantageous exploits to create a whole. I pray like Hindu, subduing fortunes to redo, creating my own calculations, speculations to innuendo against the majority, treating them as lab rats. I experiment like placebo effects, redirecting the imminence of infinity. Pieces of my pieces, remnants, fight against complacent peace, turning me into an unsystematic beast on a mission to ludicrously disturb their peace design, until the day I sign out like peace signs. Senseless stories told from what society deemed as a senseless poet. Now take the less off of senseless to make sense out of corporate sense as you inhale the incense of my sense. And sense the truth of society's nonsense, since they bullshit ignorance and pass it off as common sense. My philosophical impotence was birthed to be clean, but it wasn't static clean until the shock from static shot me clean out of my mind into its own paradigm, kinetically endowing my prose like Gene, levitating me beyond mere words and symmetric imagery, spreading my untainted wings as I emerge the victor, healing the pessimistic parsimonious by subtracting it with the arithmetic of my optimistic ginseng. Keeping it keen, I stay lean, never eating unhealthy bullshit, enabling me to see the unforeseen, predisposing my words to cause poetry's refusion and intrusion. I tried to pimp me out, but failed in its promiscuous scandals of seclusion, drawing me to my epic conclusion. Senseless stories told from what society deemed as a senseless poet. Now take the less off of senseless to make sense out of corporate sense as you inhale the incense of my sense. And sense the truth of society's nonsense, since they bullshit ignorance and pass it off as common sense.